welcome now to this Wellingtone short webinar on the topic of key principles of change management. In this webinar, I'm going to first do some brief introductions, then we'll talk about typical challenges to do with change management in today's world. Then we'll go through what some of the key principles of successful change management is, and then we will have time for a few questions and Q&A at the end before we have a look at some practical steps and next steps that you can take. So a couple of introductions. Who am I? First of all, my name is Karin Maule. I'm a senior project management trainer with Wellingtone, which means I spend all my days doing this effectively, talking to our various clients about different topics related to project management. My background is in project management in various guises and also learning and development. So this is kind of an ideal sweet spot for me. And I work for an organization called Wellingtone. The fact that you're at this webinar makes me think you probably have heard of us in some way. If you haven't, we are a fairly small consultancy who work with some really big organizations. And our mission is to help our customers achieve a step change in their project management maturity. And we do that through three themes of work, or three categories of work, we could say. We do consultations around maturity assessments, methodology assessments, ways of setting up and managing work effectively. We do technology implementation, so enterprise solutions that help you manage and control and report on your projects more effectively. And we also do training, which is my favorite thing, obviously. We do training on things like preparation for APM accreditations, PFQ, PMQ, for example, legal project management, agile change management, of course. And we also have a whole suite of courses on how you set up and run a successful PMO. So, all well and good, you might think, why are we talking about change management? How does change management fit into all of this? And really, change management is everything. Change management is kind of the point of everything we do and everything that we're trying to enable our customers to do. The whole point of doing projects and programs in the first place is to achieve a change, to introduce something new or different. Right? We don't do those things to stay the same. We do them so that we can improve. And anytime we talk about improvement, well, it involves a change. So in managing change or introducing change, there's several inherent challenges. Try to formulate a statement around what sort of challenge it is we're trying to deal with, and you have it here on the screen. It's about how can we manage change in a way that delivers the future state, so where we want to be or what we want to achieve, in a way that enables us to realize benefits or achieve the results that we had set out to do, in a way that brings people along on the change journey. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And change is really difficult. A lot of change initiatives, even the majority of change initiatives, fail. Fail in the sense that they don't bring about the future state, they do not deliver benefits or enable benefits realization, and they fail to bring people along on the journey, so that people that need to do something different reject the change or reject the future state. Now, 70% is the statistic that gets banded around of how many change initiatives fail. This is based on research that was done in 1998, so it's a fairly old statistic, but it is something that we say this probably reflects reality still today. The majority, the vast majority of change initiatives fail. And why is that? And there might be as many particular reasons or specifics as there are individual change initiatives. But if we look to some broader themes, I think a lot of the reasons are that change management is seen as a tick-the-box exercise that we do at the end of a project or a program. We've done all the real work, we've done the plans, we've done the delivery or development or implementation work where we put the output together. Now we have our fabulous output. Surely now it's just a matter of packaging it up and throwing it across the fence, and people will then start using it in the right way or doing the things that we want to do. And I think that's based on an old perception of project management or program management being the main part of what we do, and change management being something, just that final little thing, the final little thing that we need to do, we need to have ticked off, we need to have said, yeah, we've done some change management, or we've done some communication, and there we go, that should be it. When in actual fact, change management kind of needs to be the overarching thing that holds everything together. And we should really switch our perspective and think of change management as being the overarching discipline, and project and program management sitting within change management as delivery mechanisms to help us achieve the change that we are after. And it might also help if we make sure that all change that we do is underpinned by a set of key principles. And here you can see them. This is the main portion of the presentation today. So the first key principle for all change is that people must be at the heart of change. After all, anytime we introduce a change or we want to change, it's about people doing things differently. If it's a small change, maybe just one person has to do something differently. If it's a big change, then lots of people have to do things differently. But at any point, if we forget about that it's about people doing things differently, the change will fail. And the other thing related to people and change is that we have to remember that resistance to change is inevitable. It's not a sign that the change is failing, that you are failing, or that the output is rubbish. It's a natural human reaction to something that is new. We'll talk a bit more about that in just a moment. But so resistance is inevitable, but it's still something that we can and have to manage. And we have to be proactive about how we do it. And one way that we do that is by making sure that the organization and its people are ready for change. And that's bigger than just a tick the box exercise on our project closure report or a final communication, etc. Also very important is that once change has been introduced, once people are dipping their toes in the future state, as it were, it's not a sign for us to stop working and close down. That's a sign that we need to ramp up our reinforcement work and make sure that people stay on the path that we have set them on, that they don't find opportunities to go back to the old ways of working or the old ways of being, etc. And then finally, tying all of this together, it's really important that we change our mindset from change being just an event or a point where we press a button, and instead start thinking about it as change is a process. A quite lengthy and involved process at times, but very importantly, a process, not a change, and not an event. So let's look at these in a bit more detail. So why is it inevitable that people will resist change, and why is it important that we talk about change as a process, not an event? Well, some of the answers to that can be found in a model called the Bridges of Transition, created by someone called William Bridges. Now, he identified that there are two different concepts that are related, but that we need to think of quite differently whenever we deal with change. The first one is the change. But the change, the way he describes it, is that's the event. That's the point in time where we push the button, out with the old, in with the new. That's something that can be planned, that can be managed, something we can put a date on in our diaries. Okay? But that's different from transition. Transition being the internal psychological processes a person has to go through in order to be able to step into the new world or start engaging with the new tool or process or whatever it is we're bringing in. And Bridges said that in order for a person to be able to do that, to embrace the new or go towards the future, they first have to let go of the past, the old or the familiar. And there is where the challenge lies, because as human beings, we are hardwired to hang on to the devil we know, right? The old and familiar, regardless of whether we can see that on paper that the new thing will be better or preferable or save time or easier or whatever it is. I'd rather stick to the thing that I'm already familiar with. So when we're introducing change, we are effectively asking people, give up the thing that you're familiar with, let go of it, say goodbye to it, and step into this new unknown world. And that's really hard. That's not something that most people can do at the drop of a hat. And that's why resistance to change is inevitable. So what can we do to help people then? How can we make people ready for change? Well, we need to make sure we have 3 key building blocks in place. First of all, we need to look at how we can build people's desire, motivation, or willingness to take part in the change. And that has to come first. We can't do any of the other things until we have that. And in doing that, we might look at tools such as having a strong change vision. That can be the motivator that pulls people towards the change. And we might also want to do something like what's often called a burning platform, which is to be able to clearly articulate why the old ways of working or being or the old product, etc., is no longer suitable, which creates a kind of a push for people to jump off the old platform or the old ways of working as well. And this is something that has to be translated so that it's relevant and has meaning to the individuals that have to go through change. Usually it's not good enough to motivate change or to talk about change in terms of revenue or efficiency, so things that might be good for a corporate or business point of view. People want to know, how is this better for me? What's in it for me? And that has to be the focus when we set up our desire, motivation, or willingness. The next building block we have to have is we need to make sure people have the right knowledge. They have to have the knowledge, so the theoretical understanding of what the future looks like, and an understanding of how they fit into it and what they need to do, both in order to take part in the actual change and transition, but then to take part in and have a place in the future state. And then beyond that, we also need to look at what abilities people need. There's a difference between knowledge and ability. Knowledge is the theoretical understanding. Ability is being able to actually do something. And different people will have different needs for ability in order to take part in the future state. There will be some people that just need the theoretical understanding. They just need to see what is going on or what other people are doing differently. Others will actually need to be able to do something. And that's where it might be a really good idea as project professional to partner with a learning and development team, for example, get some help understanding how to identify what needs my particular change audience has. And then finally, we need to make sure we reinforce the change. So once we have made the change, push the button, as it were, we are dipping our toes into the future state. We have to make sure we reinforce that change. Because going back to Bridges, change and transition, us being hardwired to stick to the old and familiar, it means that automatically, without even realizing, we will find little ways of undermining the new, finding little routes way back to the old and familiar. So if we drop the change on people and then step back, they will reject it and go back to the old and familiar. So let's keep reinforcing it. We can do things like trying to make it fun and easy to do the right thing. You might want to look at something called nudge theory, which basically says that we can kind of manipulate or trick people into doing the new thing if we can turn it into a game or a competition or make it fun or imply that everyone else is already doing it. That's a really powerful thing to do. Also using simple reminders, using slogans, catchphrases, simple pictures, graphics, either have posters in elevators, bathroom, kitchens, hallways, by people's desks, by the photocopier, if you still use one, that sort of thing, or post it on the intranet, the starter page, wherever people go often, have those little simple cues to remind them of what the new ways of working are. Make sure you keep and separate it. And of course, the particular individuals could be better.
Sorry, you just cut up then. Could you just repeat the last about 10 seconds? Your audio just broke up, sorry.
Apologies. Was that from recognizing good behavior?
Yes, but it was just about 10 seconds worth.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, so make sure you keep an eye out for people doing the right thing, so that you can recognize it and celebrate it, because that will both encourage them to continue doing the right thing, and then other people will see it, and it will create a bit of positive competition, so that others will be inspired and motivated to jump on the bandwagon, as it were. And then finally, a really powerful way of making sure that people cannot return to the old and familiar is get rid of it. Get rid of the old process, close down the old ticket system, remove the old system. Whatever it is, once you see that there are signs that the new ways of working are taking hold, remove the alternative. Okay, don't give people the option to use two or to go back to the old one. And finally, the final big key to success is don't think about your change as an event. You have to think of it as a process with quite a lot of work done beforehand, mainly focused on how to identify and understand the people that will be impacted by change and need to do something differently, and how we prepare them. And then there's work that we need to do during the change to support people, support business as usual, make sure the change happens in a as smooth and pain-free or painless way as possible. And then there's work that we have to do after the actual change, or after we have pressed the button, as it were, to reinforce, follow up, evaluate. And very importantly, change is going to continue happening. And we are seeing an increased rate of change in all organizations across all industries. So that means that your change is not the last one that your business or team or people will go through. So therefore, as responsible change managers, make sure you gather your lessons learned and that you can feed them into business as usual to make sure they have a way of repeating your successes, which, you know, hopefully you will have plenty of, and avoiding any mistakes that you've done. Round up just to let you know that you have free resources available on our website. There's a number of articles, white papers. We also do training courses. We have accredited courses in change management. We have a number of communities. We do regular webinars like this one, and we also run what we call Dr. PMO clinics, so individual one-to-one consultation work. Please do get in touch. You have here, you can see my email, you have our corporate contact details, and also if you want to get in touch with me on LinkedIn, please do so. And I think that was everything for me for today, actually. So from me as well, thank you so much, everybody, and thank you very much, Hannah. Hopefully see you all soon.